Hello and welcome to The Ring, Euronews's weekly debate show broadcasting from the European Parliament in Brussels. I'm Stefan Grobe. On The Ring, debaters go face-to-face on some of the top political issues facing Europe. Today we want to talk about one of the biggest events of the year, the FIFA Football World Cup 2026. It's uniting the world, creating a vibe of friendship and festivity, and leaving politics outside. Now, if you believe that, you better think twice. Luis Albertos tells you why.
This week, the FIFA Football World Cup will kick off, capturing the attention of millions of people around the globe. But headlines will not only dominate the sport pages, rarely has the politics of football fueled such controversial debates in the run-up to a tournament like this year. It starts with the rationale behind giving this event for the first time to 3 host countries covering almost an entire continent and expanding the number of teams from 32 to 48, with more than 1,200 players taking part. Then there's the exploding ticket prices, the fan boycotts, security concerns, whether Iran and Congo can take part, Trump, racism, the list is long. Has the world's most popular sport become a platform for global politics? Is football no longer just a sport? And what does the future of the World Cup look like?
A lot to unpack for our contenders, and here they are.
Rasmus Andresen, a German MEP from the Greens. He's a member of the Committees on Budget, Economic and Monetary Affairs, as well as a delegation for relations with the United States. Football must not become a playground for investors and pricing algorithms. When supporters are priced out of stadiums and clubs become assets in global ownership networks, we risk losing the very social and community value that makes sports special, he said. Lukas Mandl, an Austrian MEP from the centre-right European People's Party. In the European Parliament, he sits in the committees on development, legal affairs and civil liberties, justice and home affairs. In the run-up to the 2026 World Cup, he says, "For these few weeks, football makes the world a family. To make it political or posh will not help."
So let me welcome to the ring Lukas Mandl and Rasmus Andresen. Great to have you here. Good to see you. Now, the aim of the ring is to offer our viewers a glimpse at European Parliament debates, so you should feel right at home here. Are you ready?
I think so, yes.
We are ready. Good. Now, after all we've heard about the non-football related issues in the run-up of the tournament, are you still excited about the World Cup, Lucas?
I'm totally excited. Football is king for the weeks ahead. Such a big game that's involving so many people worldwide is automatically with some political impact, but to politicize it purposely would be the absolutely wrong thing to do. I see the trouble. We will talk about it in this today's discussion, but in the first place, also for myself as a fan, I see the excitement about the game.
Okay.
Well, I'm ready and I love the sport, so I'm really looking forward to see some nice matches, to follow the German national team, but also some of the others. But I also have some concerns in mind looking on that this tournament mainly will be played in the US, where we have a sitting president who tries to do sports washing and to get a better image out of football. And there are some other issues I think we need to address, where we need to ensure that football still will be the sport for the people and not for some very few.
Was it smart to give the tournament to 3 countries covering half a continent?
I think yes. Actually, it became the habit that big games would be hosted by several countries, which is cross-border, and cross-border even more provides sports to be a factor that makes people a family, the world a family. So it's good that there are 3 host countries. Of course, there are always also political implications, also due to the current US president, of course. But I think this part of the decision is a good one.
But when the venues, the teams, the fans are hundreds of kilometers, thousands of kilometers away. How can you, inspire that vibe and festivity if they're in, remote places scattered across the United States, Canada, and Mexico?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a fair question to ask. And if you ask me, I think the tournament is far too big. And the reason for this is not that they want to promote the values of football all over the world and they don't want to connect the world together. But what they want to create is money and profits. And in a way, you can say that's fine. Sports had always been a business. But for me, some of the decisions made by the FIFA in the run-up for the tournament had been too much, and one of the issues I think we have to deal with it is that the tournament is too big. There are too many countries participating. The tournament takes too long time. It has an impact also for clubs at national level who have to suffer. It has an impact on the players and the health of the players because we are creating a lot of matches, and this is why I'm a bit skeptical about that. This is the right approach.
I think next time is going to be in Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. It's also kind of an odd mix.
Exactly.
Lucas.
That part at least will be better in 4 years when we will have it in Europe, together with Morocco, of course, because the distances will be smaller. And I think this dynamic pricing systems, which makes tickets not a business, which is good, I agree with that, but makes them a posh adventure is just wrong. And this is why a more decent approach on European soil in 4 years will be better. But this doesn't take anything away from the excitement about football.
Yeah, but are you sure? I mean, the fans will basically meet each other at airports. What about the environmental footprint?
I mean, the environmental footprint of this tournament is a big catastrophe. I mean, we can be very clear about that also because the national teams have to travel on long distances with planes. The fans need to do the same. If you, for example, would like to follow the German team, you have to take the plane and for a long distance to reach to all of the different games. But what I think is much more concerning is that this tournament is really something regular citizens can't afford. You need to have a lot of money if you want to watch a game because the prices are far too high for the tickets, but also to travel in the US, even with public transport, is far too expensive. And this means that, like, the idea of that the world comes together, supporters meet each other, are not realistic any longer, at least in this tournament.
Well, when you're talking about public transport, there's basically no public transport in the United States.
But even in cities like New York or in New Jersey, where we could see some news about that, like the prices were like 10 times higher than they normally were. So even there, you cannot afford to go to the stadium or to travel to the stadium by train.
Yeah. Is that an issue here?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot that stands between us. Not only that my colleague is from the Greens, I'm from the Christian Democrats. He's even German and I'm Austrian. That's the bigger difference, especially when it comes to the World Cup. But to be serious, these algorithms that stand behind this pricing does not serve a very important cause. That football has always been inclusive, something for everybody. I mean, in front of TV, with the whole excitement, everything around worldwide, it will still be something for everybody. So we must not forget that. Because but this is a bad example of a too posh adventure.
I'm glad you say that, because what we've seen so far is not that many fans on the ground just yet. We'll see, right? But there's another aspect. Many fans just fear to fall into the hands of the U.S. immigration system, get locked up or whatever. Is this understandable?
Absolutely. There was a referee from Somalia, I've heard, who was held back for hours and hours at the airport entering the U.S. There were even in regular times before the World Cup, ICE agents even approaching playgrounds of children, basically football playgrounds, where they assumed to find people they wanted to detain in the end, and even children would be detained by them. So there is something ongoing which can be of concern. and we have to observe it carefully. We have the issue with the Ebola outbreak in Congo. Generally, there would be a restriction for traveling from Congo to the US. We will see how that applies to the players and maybe the fans and everybody around. And of course, the elephant in the room, as the saying says, is that for the first time in history, two countries at war are not only meeting, but one of the countries is the host country and the other country sends a national team, which has already misused the whole situation for a political statement, by the way. I mean, the Iranian team. But we will see how this can be observed, obviously, for the time being.
We cannot separate
Iran will only
from
play in Mexico.
At this point. At this point in age, we cannot separate football from politics, right? There's the accusation of racism. You mentioned the Somali referee that came to Miami and wasn't let in. There was the team from Senegal that was, pulled out of the plane, put on the tarmac, and then had to undergo a very aggressive search operation. This is not really what we want to see at the World Cup, right?
No, and I have to say that I think the FIFA is doing a very bad job in protecting their own referees, some of the players, and I guess also the supporters in dealing with the US administration in a way which, more or less is protecting the US administration and especially President Trump, and they want to avoid big conflicts with the current administration, and this I found quite weird in a way, I have to say, because you can have different opinions on the political situation in the US and so on, and it's maybe not up to the FIFA president to take a big stance on this, but not even protecting their own participants in their tournament, which are necessary to organize it, is in a way weird from my perspective.
Let me just stop you here. We'll be talking about this in a moment, as we are just getting warmed up here. Now it's time for gloves off. Now, we want viewers to get a real flavor of the European Parliament chamber where members ask each other questions. That means we want our debaters to challenge each other directly, just as you do in the hemicycle. Let's get started with Lukas Mandl.
Dear colleague, you have advocated for boycotting the World Cup. I don't agree with that. I think the excitement about football is much bigger than politics can ever be. And the direct question would be, how would you explain to, let's say, a child excited about football, just interested into football and this exciting game, how would you explain to such a child to boycott the game?
I did not advocate to boycott the tournament, especially not for supporters. But what I think politicians should do is to take a clear stance and to criticize both the FIFA but also the current US administration on the mistakes they are making when it also comes to organizing sports. And there I think that politicians have a different kind of responsibility, meaning that they should not travel there and be part of the tournament and green light both the actions of the FIFA and of the US president. So for me, it's not a general boycott, but I think as politicians, we should not go there and support.
Well, criticism is good. You have to tell the child that most games are in the middle of the night, and that's also true. Able to watch it. All right, Rasmus, your question.
That's up to the parents, I guess, to decide. My question goes on the question if you think we need to regulate European football in general, also with regulation we can do at European level. Also because, and this is what I understood, you're also very critical about what we can see on the ticket prices, for example. So my question would be, how should we address that? Or should we address that as legislators, or is this something the FIFA and other organizations need to deal with?
Well, thanks for the question, because I also wanted to echo what you have just said, that criticism is good, I think, but we also have to act to contribute to a better solution, better circumstances in 4 years from now, when Europe will be mainly the soil where the World Cup will take place. And I think regulation is not the first word that comes to my mind when it comes to that, because I think there's a lot of freedom and opportunity to decide responsibly. But I think what we need is clear lines for what responsibility means for a game that affects the whole world, for a game that involves everybody, men and women, by the way, today more than ever, in 4 years more than today, and that can also make the world a family in the best sense one can imagine. This will not happen to the full extent this year, but it can happen in 4 years when we contribute to responsibility. We must also not overestimate our say as lawmakers. I mean, we make laws especially to protect freedom, and this is also the freedom of decision of FIFA, of UEFA, as long as there are responsibility boundaries, and this is what I want to contribute to, and I think we can work on that together in 4 years from now.
Okay. Do you have another question to Rasmus?
Who will win the World Cup?
I hope my hope goes with Germany.
That puts him in the bind here. I see.
What?
That puts you in a bind.
Well,
now.
my hope goes with Germany, but I think it will be Spain or France.
It occurs to me, 4 years ago the World Cup was in Qatar. 4 years before that it was in Russia. Does FIFA have a blind eye when it comes to hosting these tournaments? I mean, do we? And this year we have a huge discussion about Trump's America. Isn't that unfortunate?
I mean, I'm not here in any way to defend FIFA. I think there are decision takers with good decisions, with bad decisions. I just wanted to draw the picture on the larger overview. The decisions of the venues for games like this, especially the Football World Cup, have been taken many years before political developments broke out. And this was true for Russia. By the way, when we discuss Iran and USA today, we as Europeans know very well that with Russian sports teams in many areas, very often agents and spies come along. But I mean, also I remember how naive the world was, not only FIFA, how naive when it came to the games in Qatar, all the world was about judging, for example, the labor standards when the stadiums were built and so on in Qatar. I have some confidence that today such naivety would not occur anymore.
This at least in Qatar, the distances were shorter. Rasmus, your take on this, and then we move on.
Well, on the other side, I think also back that time, there had been a lot of criticism on that the tournament took place in Qatar because of good reasons, human rights situations, workers' rights, and so on, freedom of media, for example. I think they have a blind spot. FIFA has a blind spot, and for me, this is an argument for that the big football associations, like the FIFA, are money-driven, and they are arguing with values they are not really following up to, and that's what I'm mostly criticizing. And this we could see with a lot of examples, and this is what I think needs to change.
Okay. Well, we've heard the views from our guests. Now it's time to hear from a new voice. I would like to bring in Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA. At the 50th UEFA Congress in Brussels in April, he said this: "Our responsibility is to give 90 minutes of a match where people can forget their issues, the problems they have at home, they have in work, they have in their countries, they have on a political level." Is he right?
Of course he's right. I mean, that's the basic thing you have to say, no matter whether one decision of him is bad, the other one would be good. One can argue about FIFA, about any organization as well. But of course, this quote is exactly how I see it.
Well, from my perspective, he's not right because that's not what he's doing and what he's participating in, or how he's organizing the sports. Football had been community-driven for more than 100 years, and I think that organizations like FIFA and people like Mr. Infantino are part of a process which are taking this away from football and where he basically is supporting commercialization and, on the other side, sports washing. So if he sits next to President Trump in the football stadium and he will sometimes be on camera, seen by people back home, then it's not so easy for immigrants, for example, to enjoy the nice game they want to see being played, because they are confronted with his brothership with friendship with Donald Trump. So I think he's right in what it should be about, but he's not living up to that completely.
Let's take a break here on The Ring. We'll be back with more after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to The Ring, Euronews' weekly debate show. I'm Stefan Grobe, and I'm joined by Rasmus Andresen from the Greens from Germany and Lukas Mandl from the European People's Party from Austria. At this point, let's take a look at fan excitement, or should I say demand versus reality. According to FIFA, there have been over 500 million ticket requests, and more than 5 million tickets have been allocated at early sales phases. But according to a survey by the American Hotel and Lodging Association, 80% of hotel operators said bookings were below their initial forecasts. And between 65 and 70% of respondents said visa barriers and geopolitical concerns were suppressing international demand. So, anticipated demand has not translated into strong hotel bookings so far. Your comments on this?
Well, I mean, that's because of the general price level, I think, both when it comes to the tickets, but also to other elements you need to pay for if you travel. And normally people are traveling to the country even if they don't have tickets or can't afford the tickets because they want to be part of that. But this cannot be the case in the US because it's far too expensive. And then there are some political issues that people have concerns about going there because they don't know if they are allowed to enter the country because of their nationality or because they maybe posted something on social media. The president doesn't like.
There's also Canada and Mexico.
Yeah, okay, but
we forgot about that.
But the tournament mainly takes part in the US.
Lucas, that's right. That's right.
The ticket prices are a sign of a decadent society. Not all ticket prices, but when it comes to this dynamic pricing, the algorithms, in the end, the numbers that are told from there are absolutely crazy. It's like when the ancient Rome came to an end. This is not at all a game for everybody. This is not even a game for a minority. This is a game for maybe extremely wealthy people. If this goes that direction, this is absurd. This is wrong. This has to be excluded.
Just to open a bracket here, the ticket for the final is about $10,000.
Yeah, I've even seen already larger prices in this dynamic pricing system than that. These extreme examples of where this dynamic pricing system can lead to are something we have to exclude, for example, for what will happen in 4 years from now in Europe.
Is the best way to follow the matches in one's living room?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you can still go in a bar and follow it. I know very well that the new mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, he is a big football fan and he organized some community-driven events like we would like to see it taking place in different cities. But at least my feeling is that you don't have the same happening on the streets in the public sphere with this tournament than you had earlier.
All right, now it's time to move on to our fifth and final round. We're going to do something different. I'm going to ask you a set of questions, and you can only answer with a yes or no. All right? Let's get started. Most matches will take place in the middle of the night, as I said. Do you plan on watching them anyway?
Absolutely. Austria will play one time, I think at 4 in the morning in Austrian time. I will definitely watch it. I even have invited friends for that. We will have morning coffee and watch Austria win.
Okay, okay.
I will watch most of it, I guess, but sometimes we have to negotiate important legislation in the parliament, and then I also need to get some rest to be ready for that.
Okay. Has FIFA effectively turned World Cup 2026 into a political branding exercise for the host governments? Yes or no?
Yes, and not for the good. I mean, they gave a peace prize to Donald Trump.
I think no, or not yet to be told. I don't agree with every FIFA decision, but for example, this very present decision about this peace prize for the current US president by FIFA, I mean, it tells more about the current US president than about FIFA.
Does giving the World Cup to 3 host nations make political accountability harder?
It makes it harder, but I think there are still advantages of having such games, also Olympics, other World Cups, in many countries, while the distances are a problem. I think the distances are the real problem,
Okay, well,
not that it's 3 nations.
Talked about that.
It makes it harder, but that's also a reason for supporting, for example, civil society, like supporter organizations, human rights organizations on the ground, which are doing extraordinary and good work, excellent work in following what is actually happening and also reporting back so that you can also come up with problems like in the political sphere.
Will security and immigration politics become one of the defining stories of this tournament?
I mean, that depends on us, how we perceive it as fans, as citizens, also in public sphere. I mean, if we pay attention to the current US president more than to football, it's also partly our mistake. Football is king now.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think it's our mistake to criticize if referees are not allowed to enter the country or to discuss what is actually going on with the Trump administration when it comes to immigration and other questions. Security is part of this, and both the FIFA and the US administration are doing a lot, which then again needs to get a response.
Okay. Next question. Will Austria win the World Cup?
No.
Of course. Of course, I support Austria, and I'm a natural born optimist.
So the next question is, will Germany win the World Cup?
Not at all.
Okay.
I'm afraid we won't do it, but I would love it.
Okay. And finally, was there anything over the last half hour that you heard your opponent say that you agree with? I start with you.
I've heard a lot, for example, the strong criticism on the ticket prices and the general development. I think where we maybe have a bit different opinion is on if politics should act, and I think we should act and we should come up with some solutions, because we can see that FIFA is not able in doing that alone.
Okay, agreement with Lucas?
I agree with the excitement about football. I agree with a lot that has been stated already. I even agree that something has to be done. Maybe the how and what exactly has to be done is something we have to work out together, whether it's rather regulation or rather contributing to responsibility. I think political engineering is always the ultima ratio, the last possible option, not the first thing. And we will prove in Europe in 4 years from now, we will make it better and also learn from the lessons this time. But now, as I said, football is king.
All right, wonderful conclusion, and that final answer brings us to the end of this edition of The Ring. Thanks again to Rasmus Andresen and Lukas Mandl for a lively conversation here from the European Parliament. Thanks to our audience at home. If you like, you can continue the conversation by sending us your comments to thering@euronews.com. We'd love to have your feedback. That's it for today. I'm Stefan Grobe. Take care and see you soon here on Euronews.